The wedding was supposed to be the start of their lives together. A lavish affair, hundreds of guests, vows of love, it was all perfect. But a wedding gift from the bride's father would turn the day into an unimaginable nightmare. It was a world of inherited privilege and polished dreams. Camden and Amelia were born just months apart in the same exclusive Beverly Hills neighborhood. Their families, both titans of their respective industries, real estate for the Millers and high fashion for the Hendersons, had known each other 4 years. Their relationship was a carefully woven tapestry of business and shared cultural tradition, a foundation built for generations of success and stability. But for Camden and Amelia, their connection transcended this gilded cage. It was the simple, joyful bond of a lifelong friendship. From their earliest days, they were inseparable. Their mothers, successful entrepreneurs in their own right, would arrange playdates, knowing how much their children delighted in each other's company. Their fathers, men of sharp wit and a strong sense of tradition, would often joke that the two were destined to be together. Even as toddlers, too young to grasp what that meant, their world was defined by each other. They spent their days chasing each other through the sprawling gardens of their family estates, their laughter echoing through the canyons. When they weren't running outside, they were huddled together, engrossed in fantasy novels or locked in heated competition over video games. Camden almost always won, but Amelia, fiercely competitive, would always demand a rematch. As they grew older, their bond only deepened. It was a silent understanding that didn't need constant validation. They were a team. In elementary school, their teachers noted how well they worked as a pair. Camden, logical and methodical; Amelia, creative and daring. He was her anchor, a quiet voice of reason. She was his fire, encouraging him to take risks and speak his mind. By the time they were 10, their friendship was the unquestionable core of their lives. Then, puberty arrived, and with it, a subtle shift. It wasn't a sudden change, but a gradual evolution, almost imperceptible at first. Camden started noticing the way Amelia's laugh lit up a room, or the cute way her nose crinkled when she was annoyed. Amelia, in turn, saw that Camden was no longer a boy. His features had sharpened, and the quiet confidence set him apart from the crowd. Their classmates started to tease them, asking if they were an item. At first, they laughed it off, but with each passing year, the question seemed less and less absurd. On the eve of their 16th birthdays, their relationship evolved. The innocent friendship was now colored by something more, something neither of them fully understood, but both felt deeply. It was the way Camden's heart hammered whenever Amelia leaned into close, or how she found herself watching him, entranced, as he lost himself in a project. One night, sitting on the rooftop of Amelia's house, watching the sun paint the sky in hues of orange and pink, she finally gave voice to the question that had been lingering between them for months. "Have you ever wondered if we're more than just friends?" she asked, her voice a barely audible whisper. Camden's pulse quickened. Of course he had, but had never dared to say it out loud. "Yeah," he finally admitted after a long pause. "I have." Amelia met his gaze, searching his eyes. What she saw gave her the answer she was looking for. She smiled, a soft, hesitant smile filled with unspoken meaning. Before either of them could second-guess themselves, she leaned in and kissed him. It was the beginning of something new, something neither of them had planned, but both had secretly longed for. Their romance blossomed, a natural extension of their deep-rooted friendship. They navigated the awkwardness of first love and learned to be not just friends, but partners. There were whispers from those who doubted that a childhood love could last, but Camden and Amelia didn't care. They knew what they had was real, and they were not going to let go just because others doubted them. They graduated high school and went on to attend universities in Los Angeles, taking it as a sign that their path was meant to be shared. Over the next few years, Camden and Amelia thrived. They were no longer just the inseparable best friends who fell in love. They were independent individuals, forging their own paths while remaining deeply committed to each other. Camden studied architecture at a top university, a visionary who saw buildings not just as structures, but as legacies. Amelia, meanwhile, pursued her passion for fashion design, creating bold, vibrant pieces inspired by American culture and her own creative flair. She quickly gained a following on social media, and by her junior year, her designs were featured in young designer showcases. Despite their busy schedules, they always made time for each other. Weekends were sacred, reserved for long drives up the Pacific Coast Highway, discovering new restaurants, or just sitting together, talking for hours. They weathered the storms of college life together, supporting each other through all-nighters, academic stress, and the pressure to succeed. They were a power couple in the making, their futures bright and intertwined. The question of when they would take the next step was a constant topic among their friends and families. Amelia, ambitious and determined to establish herself, wanted to prove her worth before becoming someone's wife. Camden, though he longed for the certainty of forever, understood. He waited patiently, knowing that when the time was right, they would make the leap. Amelia had always wanted to see more of the world, and for her 25th birthday, Camden surprised her with a trip to the Four Seasons in Bora Bora. He had been carrying a ring for weeks, waiting for the perfect moment. As they planned their getaway, he knew he had found it. Their trip was magical. They spent their days snorkeling in turquoise lagoons, and their evenings under a sky so full of stars, it seemed unreal. On their fourth night, he arranged a private dinner on a secluded terrace, overlooking the breathtaking expanse of the ocean. As the meal came to an end, with the last rays of sun fading into twilight, Camden reached for her hand. "Amelia," he began, his voice steady, despite the emotions swirling inside him. "I've loved you since before I even knew what love was. We grew up together, built our dreams together, and I know without a doubt that my life would be incomplete without you in it." Amelia blinked, the realization dawning in her eyes. As he got down on one knee, the ring, a stunning blend of modern elegance and traditional artistry, shimmered in the candlelight. "I don't want to rush you," he continued, his voice softer now, "but in my heart, I know you're the woman I want to spend my life with. Whether it's in 1 year or 10, I'll wait for you. But when you're ready, I want to be your husband." For the first time in her life, Amelia was speechless. Tears welled up in her eyes, and a breathless laugh escaped her lips. "Yes," she whispered. 1,000 times, yes. The world seemed to fade away as he slipped the ring onto her finger. She fell into his embrace, and they kissed under the vast, starlit sky. The rhythmic sound of the ocean waves and the gentle rustle of the palm trees seemed to conspire to make the moment perfect. That night, they lay awake, whispering about wedding plans, the family they hoped to create, and a life full of love and adventure. They were dreaming of a future that seemed destined to be theirs. The wedding day dawned with a clear, California sun. The venue, a magnificent estate in Malibu with panoramic views of the Pacific Ocean, was a dreamscape of white roses, flowing silk, and golden candlelight. The guest list was a who's who of high society friends, family, and industry figures from both the worlds of fashion and architecture. It was to be the wedding of the year. As the ceremony began, Amelia, a vision in a custom-made gown, adorned with intricate beadwork, walked down the aisle toward Camden. Her eyes were locked on his, and the world around her, the hundreds of guests, the stunning scenery, the significance of the event all faded away. This was their moment, the one they had been waiting for their entire lives. The vows were heartfelt, their promises a testament to a love that had stood the test of time. Camden spoke of how Amelia was the home he had always sought, and Amelia confessed that he was the anchor she never knew she needed. The priest declared them husband and wife, and as they sealed it with a kiss, a roar of applause and cheers erupted from the crowd. The reception was a fairy tale. The grand ballroom, a massive glass pavilion, reflected the fiery hues of the sunset over the ocean. Laughter, dancing, and heartfelt toasts filled the air. Their parents, full of pride and emotion, shared stories of their childhood adventures and spoke of a destiny they had always known awaited them. And then, to the surprise of everyone, Amelia's father, A stoic and reserved man named Arthur stood up and tapped a glass for silence. He smiled at the newlyweds, a rare warmth in his eyes. "To mark the beginning of your journey as husband and wife," he announced, his voice filled with pride, "I wanted to give you a gift you'll never forget." The doors to the terrace slid open, revealing a luxurious, state-of-the-art helicopter, its black and gold paint gleaming in the soft light of the lamps. A pilot in a crisp uniform stood beside it, giving a respectful nod. A hushed gasp of excitement rippled through the crowd. This was not a normal wedding gift. It was an experience, an adventure to take them high above the coastline, a breathtaking view of the very place where their love story had reached its pinnacle. Amelia's eyes were wide with shock, and Camden let out a soft, disbelieving laugh. He knew Arthur could be extravagant, but this was beyond anything he had imagined. The crowd erupted in cheers as the couple was led toward the helicopter. Cameras flashed, capturing the moment they stepped aboard. As they settled into the plush seats, Amelia reached for Camden's hand. He squeezed it reassuringly. The engines whirred to life, the rotor blades began to spin, and with a gentle lift, they rose into the night sky. Below them, the estate and the coastline twinkled like scattered jewels, a beautiful, mesmerizing spectacle. "This is unbelievable," Amelia whispered, leaning her head against his shoulder. For a few minutes, they simply basked in the perfect silence, a moment of peace before the world rushed back in. The rhythmic hum of the helicopter lulled them into a serene quiet. Everything was perfect, until it wasn't. A sudden, fierce crosswind hit the helicopter. It lurched violently, throwing Amelia to one side. She gasped, her fingers digging into Camden's hand. A static-filled voice crackled over the intercom. "Brace yourselves. Unexpected crosswind. We're losing stability." A second jolt, this one more forceful, sent a shudder through the aircraft. Warning lights flashed on the control panel. The pilot's voice was now sharp with urgency. "We're going down. We're losing control." Everything happened in an instant. The helicopter tilted at an impossible angle toward the dark, churning ocean below. The roar of the wind filled the cabin, and Camden instinctively pulled Amelia close, shielding her with his body. There was no time to scream, no time to think, just a deafening noise, the flashing red lights, and the horrifying realization that their perfect night was about to end in a fiery crash. The impact was a brutal, jarring collision. There was a deafening crunch of metal against the jagged rock of the coastal cliffs, a visceral sound that drowned out everything else. The helicopter's tail snapped off, and the fuel tank, already compromised, exploded in a ball of flame. A thick plume of black smoke billowed into the night sky, a stark, terrifying beacon. Then there was a chilling silence. A small, pained groan escaped Amelia's lips. Her head was swimming, her body a haze of fire and pain. A warm stickiness trickled down her neck, and a sharp sting in her eye made her gasp. Through the thick, acrid smoke, she blindly reached out, her voice a weak rasp. "Camden." Her fingers found something solid, something familiar in his chest. A faint, ragged breath told her he was alive. A wave of relief washed over her, but it was fleeting. The crackling flames behind them were growing, licking at the remnants of the aircraft. Sparks rained down from exposed wires. A metallic groan echoed through the wreckage. They were hanging precariously over a sheer drop that plunged into the ocean below. If they didn't move, they would either burn or fall to their deaths. With a final, desperate surge of adrenaline, she wrapped her arms around him, pulling his near-unconscious body toward the shattered side of the cabin. A new wave of pain shot through her, her ribs screaming in protest. She ignored it, fueled by a primal need to survive. Just as she pulled them clear of the most dangerous wreckage, another explosion erupted behind them. The remaining structure of the helicopter groaned and slid down the steep cliff face, plummeting into the dark abyss of the ocean. Amelia collapsed onto the rocky ground, gasping for air. Her fingers, slick with his blood, were still intertwined with his. She looked at him, his face pale against the dark streaks of soot and blood on his white suit. She shook him, her voice cracking. "Camden, you have to wake up. We have to get out of here." He groaned again, his eyes fluttering open. A weak, distant voice, almost a whisper, escaped his lips. "I love you." "No," she choked out, shaking her head fiercely. "Don't say goodbye. We're going to get out of here, both of us." But as the remaining wreckage of the helicopter creaked and slid with a final, sickening groan, a chilling realization dawned on her. The ground beneath them was unstable. The crash had destabilized the entire cliffside. In that moment, she saw it all with horrifying clarity. The helicopter, the perfect gift from her father, it was a setup. The crosswind, the sudden loss of control. It was all too coincidental. A whisper, a dark suspicion, had been confirmed in her darkest hour. She looked at Camden, his eyes closing, a final, serene smile on his lips. "Don't worry, Amelia," he whispered, his last breath a puff of smoke and blood. "Hayes got you." Amelia's world shattered. Her father, the man who had been a pillar in her life, the man who had always been so careful, so calculating, the man whose gift had been the final, fatal piece of a much larger, darker puzzle. The last thing she felt was the cold, harsh rock giving way beneath her. She squeezed Camden's hand, a silent promise, a final farewell, as they tumbled into the darkness together. Her father's gift was not to see the world from a new perspective, but to see their world crumble to dust. The perfect wedding, the perfect love story, was all a beautifully orchestrated lie, and their deaths were the final, heartbreaking act.